afternoon, Milwaukee. This is the Mark Belling Late Afternoon Show on News Talk 1130 WISN. Today is the day that we're going to be doing our annual year-end current events quiz. Now, before we get started on that, unless you are just tuning in the radio right now for the beginning of my program, you are probably aware of the incident in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I don't know how much new information is going to come out this afternoon during the program, but obviously we will update you on any important information to pass along in that story in our newscast or with myself and the updates that we're able to get on the story. At the moment, there doesn't appear to be much new to share other than what you've been hearing for the last couple of hours. The death toll reported at 5 with 8 wounded. Of course, that means the death toll could go up. The situation occurred in the baggage area in one of the terminals at the Fort Lauderdale airport. Now, before we get into the quiz, I do want to talk about this story for just a few moments. I am very familiar with the area where this occurred. I would guess that I have flown into the Fort Lauderdale airport in my life at least 40 times. And this particular terminal is the one that I'm usually at because it's the Delta terminal, and more often than not when I go to Florida, I do fly on Delta. The indications that we have from the authority, and the gunman has been identified as a man named Esteban Santiago, who was on a Canadian flight. He apparently had his gun in a checked bag, and according to authorities, after claiming the bag at a baggage claim, he went into a bathroom and loaded it, and then started moving through the baggage area and shooting people in the head without saying a word. There's nothing yet on any kind of a motive as to what caused him to do this. Now, this particular baggage area, I think I could describe it. It's like most baggage areas in most airports. It's a big, long area where there are different baggage carousels that come around. In fact, it's very, very long. And given the nature of the Fort Lauderdale airport, it's not open air, but there are lots of big, wide open doors for people to come into and out of from the baggage area, because outside the doors, that's where the cab pickups are, the van pickups, and so on. And it's got kind of a tropical feel to it. It's a big, wide open area. And somebody who did come into an area like that with a gun, obviously they could do a lot of terrible damage very, very quickly. I think it's important to comment on how this case proves that with all the security in the world, there are ways for people to do terrible things. The baggage areas of airports are outside the TSA gates. You know, when you go to any airport, Milwaukee or any other, when you go from baggage, you go from there to right outside, go to your car, go to the parking garage, and so on. It's outside of everything. The security gates are way up there. So the guy had a gun that was in his checked bag. It's in his checked bag, so he couldn't do anything with it during the time that he was on the flight. But anybody can drive up to the airport, to the baggage area, and shoot right now. If I went to the airport in Milwaukee, there's no security check outside the perimeter of the gate area. This guy didn't even have to check a gun. He could have simply driven a car up and walked up into the baggage area and started shooting at people. Why is it airports that people continue to be obsessed with, that for these incidents, be this terrorism or some other kind of, I guess it's always terrorism, but international terrorism or whatever his motive was for this, I don't know, other than airports and airlines are a place where things like this tend to occur. But this incident, you know, it's right outside a major thing. He could have done this at a shopping mall. He could have done this at any type of major venue down there. Now, a couple of other things that I think we should mention. There's 2 major airports in the Miami-Fort Lauderdale area. There's Miami and there's this one, Fort Lauderdale. There's a big storm coming this weekend, so people are going down to Florida, and going to Florida on weekends a big thing. If you do have a flight scheduled into that airport, check the airline schedule and see if they've canceled or what they've done, or if they're rerouting you or this, that, or the other thing. I don't know how long they're going to have to keep a security presence in place there. There was a report from TSA that they said they had gotten 2 reports of a second active shooter. The sheriff down there says that there is no indication that anyone else fired any shots. What they did with the people that were inside the terminal is they moved them literally out onto a tarmac to get them away from the airport building just in case there was somebody else that was doing something. But look at these videos now. You just people wandering around, just walking around out there in the open air and nothing for them to do. So in any event, it happened at the Fort Lauderdale airport. It happened right around noon or so, our time, and it's the latest instance of this kind of crap that we've had to put up with in the United States. All right. And again, is Dan still in here, Paul? Yeah, Dan O'Donnell will be updating us throughout the afternoon, and I'll be getting the information that comes in. If there's other material that we need to share, or if we get more information about this shooter or other stuff, we'll pass that along to you. All right, now let me introduce my current events quiz for those of you who've listened to it every year or have not heard it ever before. What we do is we do this every year. It's usually at the tail end of the year. Sometimes it spills over into the first days of the following year, such as we're doing it this year. The quiz will take up most of the program. We still have our football contest that we're going to be doing at the beginning of the 5 o'clock hour. But other than that, and other than passing along updates on what went on in Fort Lauderdale, the quiz is going to be the show today. The way the quiz works is this. You have to call into the program to participate. And if you get through on the phone line, here's how it works. I ask you a question. I'll tell you about those questions in a moment. If you answer correctly, you get to answer another question. And you stay on the air until you get a question wrong. The person who wins the quiz is the person who answers the most questions in a row correctly. If there's a tie at the end of the program, we do have a tie-breaking mechanism, and therefore, if you are somebody that's in the lead, it would be necessary for you to be available at 6 o'clock tonight when the program ends for the tiebreaker. If you're unavailable, you're unavailable, and you would lose. Now, we allow you to participate a maximum of 3 times. Why do I allow you to play more than once? Well, I mean, let's suppose that you get on and here's a question that stumped 27 people in a row. You happen to get this question that's really, really tough. You're done. What's the fun in that? So we allow you to call in more than one time. You're allowed essentially to get 3 no's during the course of the entire program. If you try to call in after that, you would be disqualified from winning the contest. And we, of course, would know who you are because Paul takes the names of the individuals who call in. So you get 3 shots at this. It's essentially a 3 strikes and you're out. Also, this is a rule that we've had in place now for many years and we'll continue it again this year. If you have won this quiz, any of my current events quizzes in the past, you cannot participate until after 4:30. We do allow the repeaters to play because some of those folks are unbelievably good, and to give everybody else a chance, we allow you to play, but we only allow you to play in the second half of the show. That still gives you more than enough time to try to get in. How do you call in? We use our regular call-in lines, which are 414-799-1130, and the toll-free line is the Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin toll-free line, 1-800-838-9476. I apologize for having to go through a few other rules, but it's a requirement here because of the rigmarole that we're involved in. You must be 18 or over to participate. And you have to be a resident of the 50 states of the United States. It's a company legal thing that we have to go through. In addition to that, I am the sole judge of the accuracy or inaccuracy of a person's answer. Sometimes a person may be close enough to correct that I would find it acceptable, sometimes not. It's a judgment call that I make. Also, there may be a mistake that's made. I may mishear an answer, or I may misdiagnose an answer or if mistake. We have no mechanism to correct mistakes. We can't go back. There's not instant replay. Given the nature of the way the quiz works, if a mistake happens, although we try very hard not to have that occur. With regard to changes I've had to make in the way I run the quiz, I am aware that with many people actively searching for things on the internet now and able to do those searches fast, and people able to do voice searches, that some people try to look up the answer real quickly when I ask the question. For that reason, I require an answer almost immediately. You don't have to say it the instant I get done asking the question, but it has to now be very, very close. In addition to that, if I suspect that someone is getting help, they have, say, 4 or 5 people in the room, I'm going to require an answer right on the spot. We don't bar help because there'd be no way of doing it. How can I stop somebody from having 2 or 3 or 4 people in the room to try to bark out an answer for them? So it's not something that's against the rules. However, if I detect that it's occurring, your answer is going to have to occur almost immediately. And again, I'm the person who judges how to do that. What you get if you win. Here's our prize package. And it's winner take all. There's no second place. $1,500 gift certificate from Master Z's, which has locations in Waukesha and Bayshore Mall. Master Z's offers pool tables, patio furniture, dartboards, rec room games and furniture, sports memorabilia, that kind of thing. An Apple MacBook computer. That's what I have. I have an Apple MacBook computer. You're not getting mine. You're going to get a new one. Courtesy of Online Trading Academy, OTA offers classes for skill development in the process of investing. From the Princeton Club of New Berlin, a 1-year couples membership to the Princeton Club of New Berlin, plus a 4-pack of personal training sessions. That membership includes children under the age of 11. The Princeton Club features the latest strength and cardio equipment, over 90 exercise classes, indoor and outdoor pools, tennis courts, racquetball courts, and free childcare. And this is a good one, a prize package from the United States Golf Association for the 2017 U.S. Open Golf Tournament at Erin Hills. Included is U.S. Open merchandise and a pair of Trophy Club tickets for one day of the tournament. The Trophy Club offers access to the golf course as well as access to an air-conditioned pavilion that features comfortable seating, live network video coverage of the tournament, executive restroom facilities, upgraded food and beverage options available for purchase. So that's that. On the questions themselves, most deal with things that happened in 2016, not all. The questions come from virtually every area of knowledge. I want the person who wins this thing to be somebody who demonstrates great knowledge in all sorts of areas. So therefore, you might have a Wisconsin question followed by an international question, followed by a political question, followed by a question from the arts or the popular culture, and so on. Many of the questions come from state and local events. Some come from national events, some are international. And then, as I say, sports and just the entire spectrum of things. For this reason, if you're somebody listening on iHeart and you're not from Wisconsin and you get a Wisconsin question, you might be up against it. But again, that's the luck of the draw. And obviously, we have some people who are going to be playing from outside the greater Milwaukee area, and that's allowed. We have people who used to live here and this, that, and the other thing. Okay, that's enough going through the rules. Again, the way we do it, just going to call in and the question's going to be hurled at you, and if you're wrong, I go to the very next person on the line, and so on. And there is some luck associated with this. You could know 90 of the questions that I ask, but if the one you get when you're on the air is a difficult one for you, you get stumped. You know, that's just the way it goes. Anyway, we're not ready yet, Paul. You can screen those, but tie it up. We're not ready yet. We're going to start all of this during... I'm going to take a break here. Anyway, 414-799-1130. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin, toll-free, 1-800-838-9476. We'll have a lot of fun doing this, and maybe you'll learn a few things. And even if you don't ever call in or participate, I think you'll find it fun to listen to all of this stuff and try to figure out and play along with yourself and see how well you would have gotten it done. So let's get started right after we take a break. 321 News Talk, 1130 WIS. News Talk 1130 WISN, Mark Belling, late afternoon show, the forecast for the weekend. Fox 6 Rachel K. Mostly clear tonight, again, very cold, low down to 1 above. Tomorrow, mostly sunny, breezy, still cold, high 16. Should get a little bit milder for Sunday, mostly sunny, high 21. Monday, mostly cloudy and warmer, but there's a chance for snow coming in on Monday, high 30. Tuesday, mostly cloudy, warmer still, chance for a combination of rain and snow, high 39, and then Wednesday, mostly cloudy, high 30. Okay, you've heard the drill and how we do our current events quiz. Dave in New Berlin, you get to go first, and here's your question. Name the Waukesha County executive.
Finney.
That is not correct. Let's, that means that the very next person online gets the question. John in Kenosha. John, name the Waukesha County executive.
Sorry, don't know.
Okay, thank you. And again, if you don't know, or if you just hang up without answering, that does count as one of your 3 wrong answers. And again, if you don't, like those 2 people, they can call back and play whenever they want. Again, in the quiz. Oh, I did not mention one thing. If you are in the lead in the quiz, you cannot participate again until you fall out of the lead. You still have the same 3 strikes and you're out rule, but you can't call in to participate. I should have mentioned that earlier. When you are leading. In other words, let's suppose somebody has 5 in a row and that's in first place. They cannot participate again until someone else passes them up. To Charlie in Wauwatosa. Charlie, name the Waukesha County executive.
Paul Farrow.
That is correct. Let me get you up here. Oh, it's Carly.
Carly.
I says, okay. Well, I know Charlie can be a woman, but it's not. I saw Carly up there and I thought Charlie, maybe because Sykes is still causing all this trouble. All right, that's 1 for Carly. Let's go for 2 in a row. The mother of 8 children, a Fox News contributor, a reality TV star, and a resident of Wausau. What is her name?
Oh, Rachel. Can I just say Rachel? Rachel Duffy.
Yes, that is actually correct. Rachel Campos Duffy is the correct answer. She's the wife of Congressman Sean Duffy. That's 2 in a row for Carly. She might be pretty good at this, Paul, because I thought that was a tough question. Paul said that was very. You think she's going to be the winner and the 3rd person to play on the whole thing? Oh, be quiet. Let's go to the 3rd one. The next, now going for 3 in a row. Who was Time Magazine's Person of the Year?
Donald Trump.
That's correct. 3 in a row, going for 4. Trump did not win the Iowa caucuses, the first battle of the Republican presidential race. Who did?
Ted Cruz.
That's correct. 4 in a row. Roger Ailes, the founder and brains behind Fox News Channel, was forced to resign after a sexual harassment scandal that began when a former Miss Minnesota accused him of inappropriate behavior. Name her.
Andrea Tang.
That is not correct. We're going to put you on hold. Carly is our leader with 4 in a row, and she cannot play again until somebody would get to the point of 5. We go to the next caller online. Chris in Whitefish Bay, I'm going to repeat the entire question for you. Roger Ailes, the founder and brains behind Fox News Channel, was forced to resign after a sexual harassment scandal that began when a former Miss Minnesota accused him of inappropriate behavior. Name her.
Gretchen Carlson.
That is correct. I believe that the last caller was trying to come up with Andrea Tantaros, who also accused Ailes of inappropriate behavior. However, she was not the first one to do so, and she was not the former Miss Minnesota, which was the thing that would have identified Gretchen Carlson. Okay, Chris in Whitefish Bay has won, going for 2 in a row. This pharmaceutical company, a one-time high-flying stock, was in the business news all year because of controversy over its practice of buying drugs and dramatically raising their prices. The stock crashed and CEO Michael Pearson was ousted. Name the company. That is not correct. And again, that's about the quickness that we have to do on the trigger in coming up with the answer for the reasons that I mentioned earlier, with people checking the internet and potentially having help. Brad in Cedar Grove, I'm going to repeat that question for you. This pharmaceutical company, a one-time high-flying stock, was in the business news all year because of controversy over its practices of buying drugs and dramatically raising their prices. The stock crashed and CEO Michael Pearson was ousted. Name the company.
Mylan.
That is not correct. Although that company was involved in controversy over drug pricing itself. To Tony in Mountain. Paul, I'm going to have to move my phone console here. Tony in Mountain, you heard the question. Do you know the answer?
I don't.
Okay. Next up, we have Dave in Oak Creek. Dave, do you know the answer?
Valiant.
Valiant is correct. Let me get you on our scoreboard. All right, Dave has one, and he's going now for 2 in a row. Name the company that has purchased the naming rights for the new Bucks Arena. Answer.
I don't know.
Okay, that's not a correct answer. Let's go to, line 3. Dan downtown. Dan, name the company that has purchased the naming rights for the new Bucks Arena.
Northwestern Mutual?
That is not correct. Let's try Jim in West Allis. Jim, name the company that has purchased the naming rights for the new Bucks Arena. That's going to be garnered as a wrong answer for. Oh, I didn't press. I'm sorry. Let me try it again. Paul, I'm having some issues in here. There we go. Jim in West Allis, I'm going to repeat that for you because I didn't press your button when I tried to call on you. Name the company that has purchased the naming rights for the new Bucks-A-Rita.
All I can think of is BMO Harrison.
That is not correct. Let's try. Okay, I think that worked. Joe in Franklin, name the company that has purchased the naming rights for the new Bucks-A-Rita.
Coles?
Nope, that is not a correct answer. We'll go to Wayne in Whitefish Bay. Wayne, name the company that has purchased the naming rights for the new Bucks-A-Rita.
Can't come up with it.
Okay, that's not a correct answer. And there will be a correct answer. Pat on the west side, name the company that has purchased the naming rights for the new Bucks-A-Rita.
Oh, man. Johnson Controls.
That is not correct. Let's try, you think you know the answer to this fire in right now. Chris in Whitefish Bay. Chris, name the company that has purchased the naming rights for the new Bucks-A-Rita.
I'd have to say there hasn't been a company that's...
That is correct. Nobody has.
Yeah.
You could argue that that's a trick question, but for people to say, I don't know, that is different from not knowing that, in fact, those are still being marketed, and that is out there right now, and there are companies that are looking into it. The correct answer is nobody has, and Chris is correct in that, so he gets one, and we're going now for 2 in a row. For you. For people who think that these questions are too tricky, this is a very hard quiz that I do here, and you have to be very smart, and as you've seen already from some of the people that are on, we have some very, very smart people, and therefore the questions can sometimes be a little hard. All right, let's go now for 2 in a row. The Wisconsin Corrections Secretary resigned under pressure in 2016 after reports of mistreatment of juvenile criminals at the state's main juvenile incarceration facility in northern Wisconsin. Name it.
Wales? No.
That is not correct. He even knew it wasn't correct. All right, we've got a caller from Boston. Dominic, I'll repeat the question for you. The Wisconsin Corrections Secretary resigned under pressure in 2016 after reports of mistreatment of juvenile criminals at the state's main juvenile incarceration facility in northern Wisconsin. Name it.
I'm not sure.
Okay. Joe in Adele, you heard the question. Joe, do you know the answer?
No, I don't know that
Okay, that's all right. Just counts as one of your no's. You can try again. John in Kenosha. John, do you know the answer here?
Green Bay.
That is not correct. And again, we're looking for the name of the state's main juvenile incarceration facility in northern Wisconsin. Involved controversy over what happened there resulted in the resignation of the state corrections secretary. Tim in Vernon, do you know our answer?
No, I don't.
Well, he doesn't. See, now I would have thought some of the questions I think are easy, some I think are hard, and I'm often wrong about that. Sometimes those that I think are real hard, first person gets it right out of the box, and some that I think aren't that hard, stump a zillion people in a row. Paul in Waukesha, you've heard the question. Do you know the answer?
Waupun?
That is not correct. What? Paul's shocked that nobody knows the answer. But like I say, it's always hard to predict. The ones that I think are tough are not always that tough, and vice versa. Jeff on the east side. State's main juvenile incarceration facility in northern Wisconsin. In the news all year. Name it.
Lincoln?
I'm going to give you that. It's Lincoln Hills. I'm going to rule that correct enough. And again, I'm the judge of whether or not an answer is correct or not. And got to make a call on that. And I'm going to give it to you. It's Lincoln Hills. Let's go now for 2 in a row. The longest serving governor in American history recently announced he is resigning. Name the state.
I don't know the answer.
Okay. Now, I would have guessed. It's got to be a state, right? I mean, but, that's what, what the heck? Paul said he would have guessed. I would have guessed Brazil. No, Paul, state. Paul didn't really say that. To Tom in Wauwatosa. Tom, I'll repeat the question for you. The longest serving governor in American history recently announced he is resigning. Name the state.
Louisiana.
That is not correct, but at least it's a guess. It's got to be a state, right? To Mike in South Milwaukee. Mike, the longest serving governor in American history recently announced he is resigning. Name the state.
Georgia.
That's not correct either. Let's try Wendy in Wauwatosa. Wendy, do you know the answer?
Is it Iowa?
It is Iowa. You asked the question wondering if you're not supposed to ask the questions. It is in fact Iowa. Okay, Wendy. That governor's name is Terry Branstad. He is quitting to take a job in the Trump administration. What job?
Agriculture.
That is not a correct answer, but that's a very good guess because you would think if somebody from Iowa got a job, it would be in agriculture, since that appears to be all they do there. Don in Kiel. Don, I'll repeat the question for you. Former resigning Iowa Governor Terry Branstad is quitting to take a job in the Trump administration. What job?
He is taking the job of Secretary of Horsey Squeal. Squeal, Don in Kiel.
Well, that's a really, really intelligent way of approaching the whole thing. I could have knocked him out, but why do that? I mean, you know, that guy wanted to get in there and think that he did a clever thing. Wouldn't you rather, if you were him, take a guess? It's got to be a job. Wouldn't you just take a guess to try to get it right? You know, and then do his goofy thing or what? Yeah, well, no kidding. It's never funny. That's the whole thing with people being goofs when they come into the radio. Nobody's ever been funny. It's never, ever been funny. Bob in Cedarburg. Bob, after that little distraction, I'll repeat the question for you. Terry Branstad has just resigned as governor of Iowa. He was the longest-serving governor in American history. He's quitting to take a job in the Trump administration. What job?
Ambassador to China.
That's correct. Did you know that, or did you have a chance to look it up during the time in between? You can be honest.
Thanks to the goofball, I had time.
Yeah, see, and that's one of the things that, again, wasn't the case when they started this quiz years and years ago where there was an online ability to research, but there is now, and it's just part of the way that we deal with it. All right. That's one for Bob and going now for two in a row. Who won the Wisconsin Democratic presidential primary? Answer.
Bernie Sanders.
That's correct. Bernie Sanders won the Wisconsin primary. Who was the Milwaukee Bucks' #1 pick in the 2016 NBA draft? Answer.
No idea.
Okay. And that does not put him on the lead, so we just let him go on again. Our leader is Carly from Wauwatosa at 4 in a row. Drew in Boston. Drew, who was the Milwaukee Bucks' #1 pick in the 2016 NBA draft?
Thon Maker.
That is correct. Let's get Drew up on our board here. Going now for 2 in a row. Name the San Francisco-based banking company that agreed to a massive $185 million settlement after being caught signing customers up for accounts they never requested.
Wells Fargo.
Wells Fargo is correct. That's 2 for you. All right. Now, Drew, you need to listen to this entire question before I hear an answer. All of the following statements are false, except one. You are going to be asked to name the statement that is true. And again, only one of them is true. Listen to the entire list and then tell me the true statement. Jeff Fitzgerald is Speaker of the Wisconsin Assembly. F. Scott Fitzgerald is the author of Moby Dick. Larry Fitzgerald is a wide receiver for the New England Patriots. Scott Fitzgerald is Majority Leader of the Wisconsin Senate. Scott Fitzgerald is Secretary of Commerce. Tony Fitzgerald is Chief Meteorologist at Channel 58. Name the true statement. Answer.
Scott, he is the leader of the House.
There was no question that said that. There was a question that said Scott Fitzgerald is Majority Leader of the Wisconsin Senate. There was also a question that said Jeff Fitzgerald is Speaker of the Wisconsin Assembly. Which of those are you referring to?
Speaker of the Assembly.
That is not a correct answer, and that's not an indication of whether or not any of the others were. But given the fact that he said something that wasn't on the list, I wanted him to clarify what it was that he meant. All right. Carl in Larson, I'm going to read all those questions for you again, and you need to tell me which statement is true.
All right.
Jeff Fitzgerald is Speaker of the Wisconsin Assembly. F. Scott Fitzgerald is the author of Moby Dick. Larry Fitzgerald is a wide receiver with the New England Patriots. Scott Fitzgerald is Majority Leader of the Wisconsin Senate. Scott Fitzgerald is Secretary of Commerce. Tony Fitzgerald is Chief Meteorologist at Channel 58. Name the true statement.
Scott Fitzgerald is the leader of the Senate.
Of the Wisconsin Senate, that is correct. All right. Is this Carl?
Yes.
Okay. Let me get him up here. All right, Carl, that's one for you. And for people wondering about a couple of those questions, Jeff Fitzgerald, in fact, is the former Speaker of the Assembly and is the brother of Scott. F. Scott Fitzgerald did not write Moby Dick. Larry Fitzgerald is a wide receiver, but not with New England. Then the other two dealt with Scott Fitzgerald and that last Tony Fitzgerald, 58. I just made that sentence up. All right, that's one, and now going for 2.
Yeah.
This business-oriented social media site was bought in 2016 by Microsoft in Microsoft's largest acquisition ever. Name it.
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn is correct. See, I thought that was tough. But you never know which ones are tough and which ones aren't. All right, that's 2 for you, going for 3. The U.S. Open Golf Tournament will be played in our area in 2017. Name the golf course.
Whistling Straits.
That is not correct. And I thought that was the easiest question in the quiz. but I thought the one he answered before that was one of the hardest. So you just can't predict. Michael on the south side. Michael, I'm going to repeat the question for you. The U.S. Open Golf Tournament will be played in our area in 2017. Name the golf course.
Cole.
That is not correct. I'll comment on all of this when we get a correct answer. Jim in West Allis. Jim, the U.S. Open Golf Tournament will be played in our area in 2017. Name the golf course.
Erin Hills.
Well, one of the reasons why you should know that is it's one of the prizes in this quiz, and I read it 15 minutes ago. I mean, that blows me away. I thought the LinkedIn question, not to make fun of the guy who got it wrong, the LinkedIn question I thought was hard and was rather obscure. And in drafting the question, I was having to go back in my own mind and remember that it's LinkedIn, and really only knew that because I'm now a stockholder in Microsoft. There's so many of these acquisitions back. I thought that was a tough question, but I thought Erin Hills, everybody knows that that's things going on here. Plus, I just read it. It's one of our so that just proves you can't tell which ones will be easy or hard for the audience. All right. Is this Jim that I have here?
Yes.
All right, Jim, that's 1 for you. I'm going to put you on hold here, and we're going to resume the quiz after the break, so you'll be getting a chance to go for 2 in a row after the commercial break. So, Jim, you just hang on right there. It's 3:43 at News Talk 1130 WISN. News Talk 1130 WISN. Mark Belling, late afternoon show. You're listening to our current events quiz. We're also keeping tabs on an incident that occurred at the airport in Fort Lauderdale, Florida today, where a gunman shot and killed 5 people and wounded 8 others. And you'll hear more information on that as it becomes available. Our current contestant in the current events quiz is Jim from West Allis, who has 1 in a row and going for 2. The last question that we asked Jim dealt with the site of the 2017 U.S. Open, which is Erin Hills, which I thought was the easy part. Erin Hills was developed by Bob Lang, who sold the company several years ago to a major mutual funds tycoon. Name the current owner of Erin Hills.
I do not know.
Okay, let's go to the next caller on the line here, which is Brad in Cedar Grove. Brad, Erin Hills was developed by Bob Lang, who sold the company several years ago to a major mutual funds tycoon. Name the current owner of Erin Hills.
Andy Ziegler.
That is correct. Let's get him on the board here. Name the incumbent Wisconsin Supreme Court justice up for re-election in 2017. Answer.
Ann Walsh Bradley.
That is not correct, but that's a good guess because she is an incumbent state Supreme Court justice, and it has to be one of them, and there's only 7. So that's a good guess, but doesn't help him any. to Eric in Cedarburg. Eric, name the current owner of Erin Hills, who happens to be a major mutual funds tycoon. Oh, I'm sorry. That was asked. No, the question is repeat the whole question, therefore. Name the incumbent Wisconsin Supreme Court justice up for re-election in 2017.
Same last name, Annette Ziegler.
That is correct. Oftentimes there will be little twists in our contests like that. That was one little way to jog the memory. It's Annette Ziegler. Name the film that was in the spotlight at the 2016 Academy Awards, winning the Oscar for Best Picture.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay. I'll repeat next up is Dan in Waterford. Dan, I'll repeat that question for you. Name the film that was in the spotlight at the 2016 Academy Awards, winning the Oscar for Best Picture.
Spotlight.
Yes, I put the word right in the question. You wonder why people love this quiz. Yes, Spotlight is the picture that won the Oscar for Best Picture. And I ask the question, name the film that was in the spotlight for the time. All right, so much for that. Let's go now for 2 in a row. This company, mostly involved in automobile seating and other components, was spun off from Johnson Controls in 2016. Name its new name.
I don't know.
Okay. Let's go now to Jason in Wauwatosa. Jason, this company, mostly involved in automobile seating and other auto components, was spun off from Johnson Controls in 2016. What is its new name?
Adient?
That is correct. All right. Jason's up there with 1, going for 2 in a row. True or false? Donald Trump carried Colorado in the presidential election in November.
True.
Wrong. That does make Andy and Beloit rather lucky here. Andy, true or false? Donald Trump carried Colorado in the presidential election in November.
False.
That's correct. As I say, there's a fair amount of luck involved in this contest.
I knew that too, though.
Yeah, you could pipe in and say that. I will say there is no greater luck in this contest than to come on after someone got a true or false question. A few years ago, we did that, and like 3 people in a row got it wrong, and even though you could hear
I would have got that right, though, Mark. I would have got that right.
Okay, fine. You shoot off your mouth. You knew that. Let's see how you do on the next question, in which you wouldn't have the opportunity of every single Broadway performance of the musical Hamilton sold out in 2016. It is a hip-hop take on the life of founding father Alexander Hamilton. He was a member of the original cabinet of President Washington. What cabinet position?
He was the Secretary of Treasury.
That is correct. That is correct.
That
is correct. All right. Let's see. Is this Andy that we have on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I want to make sure here. All right. That's 2 for Andy, going now for 3 in a row. The price of oil bottomed out in February at a price that, in retrospect, might have been a sensational buying opportunity. What was the bottom price? $27, $31, $35, $39, or $43 per barrel?
I'm going to say $43.
That is not a correct answer. Let's go now to Travis downtown. Travis, I'm going to repeat the question for you. The price of oil bottomed out in February at a price that, in retrospect, might have been a sensational buying opportunity. What was the bottom price per barrel? $27, $31, $35, $39, or $43 per barrel?
$39.
That is not correct. Eric in Menominee Falls, you heard the question. What level did the price of oil bottom out, which would have been in February of 2016? The answer is either $27 per barrel, $31, $35, $39, or $43.
$27 a barrel.
Repeat that.
$27 a barrel.
That is correct. It was all the way down to $27 a barrel. And as I say, you look back at things in life and opportunities to make investments, and buying oil at 27, we thought it was going to stay there, and who knows, maybe it'll go back. But in retrospect, that would have been a smart thing to do, especially since oil is now over $50. Okay, is this Eric that we have right now?
Yes.
Okay, Eric, we're going to put you on hold, and you're going to get the next question right after the break that we're going to take here. It's 3:54 at News Talk 1130 WISN. News Talk 1130 WISN, Mark Belling, late afternoon show. You're listening to our year-end current events quiz. And I'll tell you about the prize and all of that thing when we start the next segment after this one, for those of you that are just coming into the middle. Coming into the middle of it, our current contestant on the line is Eric in Menominee Falls. Eric has 1 correct answer in a row here, going for 2 in a row. Eric, who is Sybil Smith?
He is the person that was shot in the Sherman Park uprising.
Yes, the guy shot by a police officer in Sherman Park. That's 2 for Eric now, and he's going for 3 in a row. Name the billionaire chosen by President-elect Trump to serve as Secretary of Commerce.
Stephen Ross.
That's not a correct answer. Let's go to Chris in Rochester. Chris, name the billionaire chosen by President-elect Trump to serve as Secretary of Commerce.
I don't remember his name.
Okay, let's try Tom in Wauwatosa. Tom, I'll repeat the question for you. Name the billionaire chosen by President-elect Trump to serve as Secretary of Commerce.
I was going to say Wilbur Ross.
That is correct. The earlier caller said Stephen Ross, who is a separate person, and then tried to correct his answer. But he said Stephen Ross first, and I ruled that therefore incorrect. I'm not sure if Stephen Ross is still alive, but he was also a very, very famous investor and corporate magnate. Wilbur Ross is someone different and was the correct answer. So that's going to be correct for 1 for you, Tom. Tom, now I'm going to put you on hold here. We do need to go into our newscast, and there is information that we have to pass along with regard to the situation in Fort Lauderdale. So I want to get to the news right here at the top of the hour. So Tom, you hang on and you're going to get your chance to go for 2 in a row. I'll resume the quiz in just a few moments here. So hang on with Tom. And for those of you who want to play, try to call in during the break. Maybe somebody give up and get off the line and all of that stuff. It's now 4:01 at News Talk 1130 WISN. Standing up for Milwaukee, this is the Mark Belling Late Afternoon Show on News Talk 1130 WISN. We're doing our year-end current events quiz today. For those of you just coming in, the way it works is I got a bunch of questions, and they come from mostly but not entirely events of 2016 across the broad spectrum of what would pass as news, the popular culture, political news, international, etc., state, local, anywhere and anything. And the person who wins is the one who gets the most correct answers in a row. If you want to play, all you have to do is call in on a regular call-in lines, 414-799-1130, or Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin, toll-free, 1-800-838-9476. You're allowed to play up to 3 times. In other words, 3 incorrect answers, and then you're done for the rest of the show. If you are a past champion of this contest, you can play after 4:30 this afternoon. We went over a series of other rules in there that at the beginning of the program. Our prize package is this, and I'll read them in the exact opposite order of what I read them the first time. A 2017 prize package from the United States Golf Association for the U.S. Open at Erin Hills in June. That's going to include U.S. Open merchandise, a pair of trophy club tickets for the day of the tournament, which includes access to the golf course and an air-conditioned pavilion featuring comfortable seating and live network video coverage of the event. A 1-year couples membership to the Princeton Club of New Berlin, plus a 4-pack of personal training sessions, an Apple MacBook computer from Online Trading Academy, and a $1,500 gift certificate from Master Z's, located in Waukesha and at Bayshore Mall. Master Z's has patio furniture, pool tables, gaming stuff, dartboards, and so on. Our current leader in the contest is Carly in Wauwatosa with 4. Carly cannot play with us again unless somebody passes her up, in which case she can fire in there and try to retake the lead. And again, 4 in a row is the lead at the moment. Our current contestant is Tom in Wauwatosa. Tom has 1 in a row correct before we went into the news, and he's now going to go for 2 in a row. Tom, the Joseph Project is a Milwaukee social service program most closely associated with what political figure?
Ron Johnson.
That's correct. Senator Ron Johnson is the correct answer. That's 2 in a row, and we're now going for 3. This artist released a music video showing himself getting into a coffin. He died the very next day. Name him.
Prince.
That is not correct, but a good guess. Well, in fact, his guesses go, that's about as good as they get, given the Prince thing. There's no harm in guessing it. Like I say, that was a very good guess, but the difference in a good guess and a bad guess is nothing other than you get the respect of the audience for a good guess that you made. To Hugh on the south side. Hugh, you're next, and I'll repeat the question for you. This artist released a music video showing himself getting into a coffin. He died the very next day. Name him.
I don't know, George Michael.
That is not correct, but again, that's another good. A lot of people died in 2016, which is there's still some guesses available. To Chris in Greenfield. Chris, you heard the question. You know the answer.
I have no idea.
Okay, thanks. He ran out of dead people to guess. To Mike at Oconomowoc. Mike, this artist released a music video of showing himself getting into a coffin. He died the very next day. Name him.
Kevin Allen.
That's not correct. So, Paul, did you think this one was hard? Yeah, so, we think it's easy. I bet there are a lot of questions that we did that the audience got the first time around that you wouldn't have known. You just never know. Cole in Kenosha. Cole, do you know the answer to our question here? Cole?
I do not.
Okay. This is stumping a lot of people. Bob in Cedarburg. This artist released a music video showing himself getting into a coffin. He died the very next day. Name him.
David Bowie.
David Bowie is correct. I got to turn the page and get Bob up on our scoreboard. Bob, this question is a continuation of the one you just answered correctly. The very day Bowie died, the New York Times had a story in its print edition saying, quote, "This is a very good time to be David Bowie. one of an unending list of stories that Times got wrong in 2016. The Bowie song, which he released to coincide with his death, had more downloads on iTunes in one day than any other Bowie song. Name the appropriately named song.
I don't know.
Okay. Tony in Oak Creek, I'm going to repeat the second part of the question to you. The David Bowie song we were referring to, which he released to coincide with his death, had more downloads on iTunes in one day than any other Bowie song. Name the appropriately named song.
Lazarus.
Lazarus is correct. Yeah, a lot of people don't seem to remember that. That was phenomenal. First of all, the song is just brilliant, and the video is just uncanny, and he knew when he was dying and timed the release of the whole thing to coincide with his death, and there he died. And everybody listened to the record, which is just a really, really good song, and the video is haunting.
I think he's hanging with Elvis.
Well, he might be. All right, that's one for you, and we're going now for two in a row here. Name the Associated Press Female Athlete of the Year. Answer. Sorry, that's a little bit too long. And again, I wish I didn't have to ask for the answer so quickly, but people do check the internet really, really fast right now, and that's was one of the realities in the current way we do the contest, that I have to give you very little time to think about it. To Dan in Waterford. Dan, name the Associated Press Female Athlete of the Year. That's going to have to go as an incorrect answer. Wendy in Wauwatosa. Wendy, name the Associated Press Female Athlete of the Year.
Simone Biles.
Simone Biles, yes, the brilliant, I would say the greatest female gymnast of all time. I'll say that. And yes, I do remember Nadia Comaneci. All right, that's one for Wendy. We're going now for two in a row. Simone, of course, was dominant in women's gymnastics at the 2016 Olympics in Rio. Name the American swimmer who made Rio headlines for another reason, concocting a story about being robbed and then bugging back to the U.S. to leave his teammates to face the authorities.
Ryan Lochte.
Ryan Lochte is correct. That's, what did you say, Paul? Paul said that seems like so long ago. Yes, when we do this quiz, and that was in the second half of the year. I mean, it wasn't like anything in February or anything. That's two in a row. We're going now for three for Wendy. IKEA, which is a chain of enormous Scandinavian furniture superstores, finally announced plans to locate in Wisconsin. In what city?
Oak Creek.
That is correct. Wendy from Wauwatosa has a chance to tie Carly from Wauwatosa. You're not the same person, are you, Wendy?
No.
Do you know Carly?
I do not.
Well, we have a Wendy in Wauwatosa chasing a Carly. This is your chance to catch Carly in Wauwatosa. This is going for four in a row. Mike Gallagher won something in northeastern Wisconsin in 2016. What?
He won the district that, it was the congressional district of Green Bay.
That's enough. A seat in Congress is all I needed there.
Okay.
That's four for you. That's a tie for the lead and a chance now to go to five. The opioid crisis in southeast Wisconsin managed to get even worse in 2016 because of sellers and users combining or substituting heroin with this ultra-powerful narcotic often used in end-life situations. Name it.
Oh gosh, it's like a...
That's too long. I can't take it. So Wendy is going to have to stop right there. And she's now in a tie for the lead. And again, if our contest ends in a tie at the end of the program, we have a tie-breaking mechanism, and we've had to do that in a number of different years. So Paul will talk to Wendy. This means that neither Wendy nor Carly can play again unless someone passes them up and gets to the point of five in a row. All right, we go now to Chris in Greenfield. Chris, in fairness to you, I'll read the whole question for you. Okay. The opioid crisis in southeast Wisconsin managed to get even worse in 2016 because of sellers and users combining or substituting heroin with this ultra-powerful narcotic often used in end-life situations. Name it.
It's elephant.
That is not going to be a correct answer. Carl and Larson, you heard the question. You know the answer.
I do not.
All right. Let's try Matt in New Berlin. Matt, do you know the answer here?
Fentanyl?
Fentanyl is correct. Let's get Matt up on our scoreboard. That's one for Matt, and going now for two in a row. The director of the FBI was in the news all year for investigating, closing, reopening, And closing again, the criminal probe of Hillary Clinton and her email server. Name him.
Comey?
Can you give me a first name?
No.
I'm going to rule that correct. Now, I'm going to say that it's correct, and I'll explain my thinking on this. I don't know of anybody else named Comey that's been in the news. The reason that the earlier person who said Stephen Ross, who is the former head of Time Warner, we're looking for Wilbur Ross, that's a completely different person who is a name that was in the business news, and he gave me the incorrect first name with this. I can't think of anybody else. There may be other people named Comey, but anybody else named in the news. So I'm going to rule this correct for Matt. And again, these are judgment calls as to whether or not the answer is sufficiently correct or not. That's 2 for you, now going for 3 in a row. This presidential candidate was ridiculed for seeming to know nothing about the humanitarian crisis caused by the Syrian civil war when he responded to a TV interviewer's question about the most ravaged city of all by asking, "What's Aleppo?" Name the candidate.
Gary something.
That's not a correct answer. Nope, can't take that. Let's go to Dennis in Brookfield. Dennis, I'll repeat the question for you. This presidential candidate was ridiculed for seeming to know nothing about the humanitarian crisis caused by the Syrian civil war when he responded to a TV interviewer's question about the most ravaged city of all by asking, "What's Aleppo?" Name the candidate.
Trump.
That is not correct, but that's a good guess. That's a very good guess. I mean, I think a lot of people could have imagined that would have been the answer from Trump, but it's not him. Steve in Racine. Steve, you heard the question. You know the answer.
Jeb Bush.
That is not correct either. It was a candidate for president of the United States, though. Let's go to Jeb Bush's state, Sanford, Florida. Bill, you heard the question. Do you know the answer here?
Gary Johnson.
Gary Johnson. That is correct. Gary Johnson, who was the Libertarian candidate. Let's get Bill up here. Despite the unpopularity of Trump and Clinton, the Libertarians failed again with Johnson to draw anything more than marginal support in the presidential election. Of what state was Gary Johnson the governor before running for president?
New Mexico.
That is correct. 2 in a row and going for 3. The Chicago Cubs won the World Series for the first time in 108 years. What American League team did they beat? Answer.
Boston Red Sox.
That is not a correct answer. That's not correct. Let's go to got another out-of-stater here. And again, as long as you live within the 50 states, you are eligible to participate. To Derek in Crete, Illinois. Derek, I'll repeat the question for you. The Chicago Cubs won the World Series for the first time in 108 years. What American League team did they beat?
The Cleveland Indians.
That is correct. Are you a Cub fan?
No.
You're not. All right. That's 1 for you, going now for 2 in a row. True or false? The Milwaukee Brewers drew more fans this year than the American League champion Indians.
True.
That is true. In fact, Cleveland was 3rd from the bottom. Amazing. Proof that winning doesn't always translate into attendance. All right, that's 2 for Derek. Going now for 3 in a row. We have another true or false question. True or false? The sheriffs of Racine and Kenosha counties are both Republicans.
False.
Wrong. To Eric in Oconomowoc. Eric, true or false? The sheriffs of Racine and Kenosha counties are both Republicans.
True.
True. It happened. This is the second true or false question that somebody got wrong and somebody else was able to come on and get correct. Well, the guy had two true or false questions in a row, and he got one right, and he got the other one wrong. Okay, Eric, that's 1 for you, and we're now going for 2 in a row. True or false? That's right. I've asked 3 true or false questions in a row. True or false? Governor Walker and wife Tonette now reside essentially full-time at the governor's residence near Madison.
True.
That is correct. They no longer live in their home in Wauwatosa. Let's see. That's 2 for Eric, going now for 3 in a row. Name the Madison area suburb in which the governor's residence is located.
Verona.
That is not a correct answer. Nope. Hard to get to that place of 4 in a row, isn't it? Dominic in Boston. Dominic, name the Madison area suburb in which the governor's residence is located. Nope, that's not correct, and not quick enough on the answer. Shannon in Brookfield. Shannon, name the Madison area suburb in which the governor's residence is located.
Middleton.
That is not correct. That's not correct. This one might be a stumper for a few people. Jeff in Greenfield. Jeff, name the Madison area suburb in which the governor's residence is located.
Monona.
It is not Monona. We're running out of Madison suburbs. To Mark in Richfield. Mark, name the Madison area suburb in which the governor's residence is located.
Maple Bluff.
Maple Bluff is correct. And tiny little community right on the western shores of eastern shore of Lake Monona. Mark, that's one for you, and we're going to put you on hold here and go into our traffic break, but you'll get a chance to go for 2 in a row right after the break, so hang on. Let's get Mark on hold here. It's 4:23 at News Talk 1130 WISN.
Rapid traffic from the TradingAcademy.com Traffic Center.
Would you have known that answer?
No.
Maple Bluff and the governor's residence? Yeah,
I guess I've heard that.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that, like, when you hear it, it rings a bell and you kind of knew it.
Right. Anybody
who's ever been there, and because it is the governor's residence, we used to call it the governor's mansion. A lot of people have been there. Maple Bluff there's 2 or 3 communities in Madison that are very, very small suburbs. They have a Shorewood Hills, not Shorewood we have here, but a Shorewood Hills, that's one of them. But Maple Bluff is this tiny little community right on the shore of, tucked inside of Madison, right on the eastern shore, Lake Monona, and that is where the governor's residence is located. And one of the reasons people would know that is whenever there's a story that refers to that place, it always says in Maple Bluff. You got to know a lot of things to win this quiz.
Yes, you do.
And a lot of people, that question, I think, I actually thought I was going to fool people on the true or false about the governor and his residence, because for so long they were living just off of Blue Mound in Wauwatosa, and after the kids went off to college and all of that stuff, they moved out, and I think Tonette's family was in there for a while, but that home is now sold. And I use the question essentially full-time because you could argue that Governor Walker traveling around and all of that stuff that doesn't live anywhere 100% of the time, but it's the correct answer on that. Okay, the traffic. Resuming the current events quiz. We have a 2-way tie for the lead. Both women, both from Wauwatosa. Carly is one of them. Wendy is the other. They're both tied at 4 in a row. And our current contestant is Mark in Richfield, right? Yeah. Mark in Richfield. Mark has 1 in a row, and we're going now for 2. Mark, I'm going to give you a list of states. You have to name the state or states with Democrat governors. So listen to the entire list, and then you're to tell me the state or states with Democrat governors. Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, Kentucky.
I'll say Illinois and Michigan.
That is not a correct answer. Okay, let's go now to Brandon in Wauwatosa. Brandon, I'm going to repeat the question for you. I'm going to give you a list of states. Name the state or states with Democrat governors. Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, Kentucky.
Minneapolis. Minnesota.
Yeah, Minnesota is the only one. Correct. And we have now passed 4:30. That means those of you who have competed in the quiz in the past that have won can again take part and try to call in and compete. And there are a few of them that are really good. And if they're listening to Gay, they'll have their chance that they can bust through on the phone lines. Okay, that's 1 for Brandon, now going for 2. President Obama issued an executive order banning states from passing laws restricting bathroom use to biological gender. The order was challenged in federal court. Was it struck down or not? Answer.
Yes.
That is correct. It was struck down. That's 2 in a row, going for 3. He won the Oscar for Best Actor for his role in The Revenant. Name him.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
That is correct. That's 3 in a row, and we're going for 4. This high school basketball player from Wisconsin was drafted in the first round of the NBA draft in 2016 after only playing 1 year of college basketball. Name him. That is not correct, and it's not in enough time. So he bows out there. Let's go to the next one. I'm generally giving people about 1.5 to 2 seconds, depending on the type of question that I ask, because of the fact that people use gadgets to try to look up the answer real quickly right now, and that's why we go quickly on that. Sean in Waukesha, I'll repeat it for you. This high school basketball player from Wisconsin was drafted in the first round of the NBA draft in 2016 after playing only 1 year of college basketball. Name him.
Sam Decker.
That is not correct. That's not correct. It's not correct. To Ted in New Berlin. Ted, you heard the question. Do you know the answer?
No.
Okay, this one might some people. Tampa, Florida. We have a lot of people listen on iHeart who play along with us here. Lee, you're on News Talk 1130 WISN. Do you know the answer?
What was the question again?
You heard the question. I need the answer.
I didn't hear
that. That is not correct. Well, I'm sorry. You can hear the question when you're on hold, and I'm not going to repeat it after about 2 or 3 because of the reason that I mentioned about people using the gadgets to listen along. And if some people don't like it, that's the way we do the contest, Ed. It's worked that way for everybody else who's been on hold so far. Brian in Dallas, Texas. Brian, do you know the answer?
Henry Ellenson.
Henry Ellenson is correct. For those of you wondering, there was one other high school player from Wisconsin who played only 1 year, 2016, but he was not chosen in the first round. That's why the only correct answer here would have been Henry, who played at Marquette and was from Rice Lake. All right, Brian, that's one for you, going now for 2 in a row. Downtown Milwaukee is in the middle of arguably its largest construction boom ever, fueled by apartments, hotels, and offices, not to mention the Bucks Arena. The largest apartment building of all, pushing 30 stories, is being built north of Wisconsin Avenue between Jackson and Van Buren. Name the company that is developing it.
The Modern?
That is not correct. That is not correct. Kevin in Rockford, Illinois. I will repeat the question for you. Downtown Milwaukee is in the middle of arguably its largest construction boom ever, fueled by apartments, hotels, and offices, not to mention the Bucks Arena. The largest apartment building of all, pushing 30 stories, is being built north of Wisconsin, just between Jackson and Van Buren. Name the company that is developing it.
The Calatrava.
That is not correct. This is where the people from outside the Milwaukee area are up against questions like that one. To Lee in Kenosha. Lee, you heard the question. Do you know the answer? Lee? Paul, did I hit him or not? Oh, try it again. Okay, there. Lee, you weren't on the first time I pushed you. That was my fault. Lee, you heard the question. You know the answer?
Camozzi Construction is a guess.
That is not the question. That is not the answer. Anyway. To Mark in Appleton. Mark, do you know the answer?
I do not.
Okay. The developer of 30-story apartment building being built north of Wisconsin between Jackson and Van Buren. And in Milwaukee, that number of stories means you're a very tall building. Ben in New Berlin, do you know the name of the company that is developing it?
Is it Barrett Visionary Development?
No, it is not. Let's go to Raleigh, North Carolina. Tom, do you know the answer?
Northwestern Mutual?
It is Northwestern Mutual, and I suspect that building will be leased out before it's finished, almost entirely by people who work virtually next door at Northwestern Mutual. Northwestern Mutual is building that building. All right, that's one for you, and we're going now for 2 in a row. Julia Louis-Dreyfus won the Emmy Award for Best Actress in a Comedy for an amazing 5th year in a row. Name her show.
I don't know.
Okay. I thought that one was easier than the one before, but you never know. Fredonia and Tim, I'll repeat this for you. Julia Louis-Dreyfus won the Emmy Award for Best Actress in a Comedy for an amazing 5th year in a row. Name her show.
Mark, I was with sports. I have no idea.
All right, that's all right. Guy wants to explain why this is like the only question he wouldn't have known. That's got to frustrate you. Imagine if you got like 40 in a row just listening and you get on the air and then you get stumped on something. To Steve in Muskego. Steve, Julia Louis-Dreyfus won the Emmy Award for Best Actress in a Comedy for an amazing 5th year in a row. Name her show.
The Amazing Christine?
That is not correct, interestingly. No, that's not it. Brian in Dallas. Do you know the name of the show we're looking for here?
Veep.
Veep is correct. Veep, in fact, she is the only actor or actress to win acting Emmys for 3 separate shows and now has a total of 9. And the show that the earlier call mentioned, the Old Christine, that was another program for which she had in the past won an Emmy, but it is for Veep that she has won, astonishing, 5 in a row. She now has 9 Emmys, 3 separate shows, Seinfeld, Old Christine, whatever that show is called, and the current program, Veep. Is this Brian that I have here?
Yes.
Okay, I got to get you up here. All right, that's 1 for Brian, going now for 2 in a row. The day of the Indiana Republican primary, Donald Trump put out a tweet linking opponent Ted Cruz's father to one of the most notorious events in American history. What?
The assassination of John F. Kennedy.
That is correct. That's 2 in a row, and we're going now for 3. Dominic Hagen Brown, the Milwaukee cop facing murder charges for the Sherman Park shooting, is facing separate felony charges for what other alleged crime?
Sexual assault, rape.
That is correct. Allegedly sexually assaulted a man the day after the shooting while the riots were going on. That's 3 for you, going now for 4, which would put you in a tie for the lead. Vince Lombardi was the first Green Bay Packers coach to be named Associated Press NFL Coach of the Year. The award was established in 1957, so Curly Lambeau never had a chance. Other than Lombardi, name every other Packers coach to be named Coach of the Year. You must name them all, and you can't name someone who didn't win.
Mike McCarthy and Mike Holmgren.
That is not a correct answer, unfortunately. Let's go to Lee in Kenosha. Lee, since that was a long question, I'm going to repeat it for you. Vince Lombardi was the first Green Bay Packers coach to be named AP NFL Coach of the Year. The award was established in 1957, so Curly Lambeau never had a chance. Other than Lombardi, name every other Packers coach to be named Coach of the Year. You must name them all, and you can't name someone who didn't win it.
None of them.
That is not correct. Larry in Brookfield.
Mike Holmgren.
That is not correct. Let's try Jason in Germantown. Jason, you heard our question. What's the answer?
Bart Starr.
That is not correct. To Kurt in Carmel, Indiana. Do you know our answer?
Infante and Holmgren.
That is not correct. Let's try Paul, where am I going here? 5? Okay. Matthew at Menominee Falls. Name.
I did not get the question, Mark.
That's tough. You have to give us the answer here. You had an opportunity to hear it.
No, I just got put on.
I know. You have an opportunity to hear it on hold. That's the rules of our contest.
Okay, I don't have it then.
Okay, thanks for the call. I will now repeat it for everyone, but I don't want to give a second chance to. The way I do this quiz is that I read the question out, and if somebody gets it wrong, I'll give a full read to the next person. Our people who are listening on hold do have the opportunity to hear this. But the reason that we don't give a second read to like 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 is, as you've been hearing, people are clicking on gadgets and so on. And especially with a long question, some people will stall to get a chance to look it up. And I can't do it for some and not for others, although I make exceptions if necessary. For those that are on hold right now, I am going to give a full read of the entire question for all of them. Vince Lombardi was the first Green Bay Packers coach to be named AP NFL Coach of the Year. The award was established in 1957, so Curly Lambeau never had a chance. Other than Lombardi, name every other Packers coach to be named Coach of the Year. Paul in Waukesha, do you have an answer?
Just Mike McCarthy.
That is not correct. Matt in Brookfield, do you know the answer?
Lindy Infante.
That is correct. And that is amazing. And an indictment of the idiot football writers of the United States. Other than Vince Lombardi, the only Green Bay Packers coach to ever be named Coach of the Year is Lindy Infante. Mike Holmgren never won it. And Mike McCarthy never won it, but Lindy Infante did. That's an astonishing question. By the way, it's one of those things that you hear it come up when people talk about the Packers a little bit all the time. You hear it. It's just an amazing kind of quirk. Anyway, let's see. Is this Matt that I have here?
Yes.
Matt, you have one in a row here, and you're going to go for two in a row, but I'm going to put you on hold, and you're going to get your chance for a second question, and people have a chance to call in since we wiped out a lot of people on that last question, which admittedly I think was one of the hardest in the quiz. And again, we've got some that are really hard, some that are easy, and sometimes I'm surprised by which ones are easy and which ones are hard. So we're going to put you on hold, take a break. It's 4:42 at News Talk 1130 WISN. I want to go back and real quickly interject. I did make clear in that question I used AP NFL Coach of the Year. There are numerous sporting news, lots of organizations named Coach of the Year. AP is probably the one that's best known, and that was the genesis of that question for people who might look and see that one of them won, and some of the other pro football writers are one of the 97 zillion other awards that are handed out by different organizations. Okay, traffic.
Round, round, get around, I get around, yeah, get around.
News Talk 1130 WISN, Mark Relling, late afternoon show. For those of you just coming in, we're in the middle of our year-end current events quiz. You want to take part, 414-799-1130. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin, toll-free, 1-800-838-9476. You get to play 3 times. 3 strikes, you're out. After your third chance, you can't play again. We have a tie for the lead with Carly and Wendy, both of Wauwatosa, tied with 4 in a row correct. If you are a past winner of the contest, you can now take part. We didn't let them play in the first half, but they can play in the second half of the contest. You do have to be 18 or older and be a resident of the 50 United States, with a series of other rules that I went through earlier on in the program. Matt in Brookfield is our current contestant. Matt has 1 in a row, and he's going for 2. Matt, a scandal occurred in 2016 in this Midwestern city over lead in the drinking water. Name the city.
Flint, Michigan.
That is correct. That's 2. USA Today named this performer Entertainer of the Year. She starred in Ghostbusters and played Hillary Clinton singing Hallelujah on Saturday Night Live after she lost the presidential election. Name the star.
Kate McKinnon.
That is correct. Kate McKinnon is correct, and her star is quite rising. The original performer who sang and wrote Hallelujah died in 2016, a year of remarkable number of deaths of huge performers in the rock era. Name the writer and original singer of Hallelujah.
Leonard Cohen.
That is correct. How did you know that?
He passed away this year, correct?
Yeah. How do you know he did Hallelujah?
Classic.
What?
It's a classic.
Yeah, it is a classic. I thought that was a very tough question. Paul, you didn't know that, did you? Oh, you did know. I asked the weasel after the question is on there. I'm going to ask you one of these before we have an audience that's correct, Paul. Yeah. In fact, you've known every single one of them, right, Paul? Paul said it's gotten that song. It's gotten so much attention, especially since Cohen died. All right, Matt, you have tied for the lead here. This would give you a chance to go into the lead by yourself. Matt, it was a train wreck of a year for Scott Walker's presidential campaign manager, blamed by Super PAC leaders for mismanaging the campaign and being linked to inappropriate romantic behavior with a member of a rival campaign staff. Name him.
Rick Wiley.
That's correct, and you are now in the lead. Our other contestants who were leading before can once again take part. That's 5 in a row and now going for 6. Who won college football's national championship last January?
Alabama.
That is correct. That's 6. This rapidly growing packaging business is opening an enormous distribution center in Kenosha County right across the street from the equally huge Amazon facility. Name the company.
Uline.
Uline is correct. Matt's very good at this. That's 7, and now we're now going for 8. Uline is owned by a husband and wife team that have emerged as some of the biggest Republican fundraisers in the nation. What is the couple who owns Uline's last name?
Koch.
That is not correct, but you are our leader, and we're going to put him on hold here. And again, Matt now takes the lead with 7. So our earlier leaders, Carly and Wendy, the rule of our contest is you cannot take part and keep playing when you are in the lead. But once you fall out of the lead, you can play again, and you still have that same rule of 3 times you can play. But he did very, very well here, and 7 may or may not stand up through the remainder of the contest. Let's see. Kevin in Waukesha. Kevin, I'm going to repeat that question that stumped him for you. Uline is owned by a husband and wife team that have emerged as some of the biggest Republican fundraisers in the nation. What is the couple who owns Uline's last name?
Uline.
Uline, yes. That guy knew so much, and I'm surprised he didn't know that one. It's the Ulines who own Uline, and the company was obviously a derivation of their name. Let's see. This is Kevin, right?
Yes.
All right. It's Richard and Elizabeth, by the way, are the Ulines. That's one, and now going for two. This question is asked every year of my current events quiz. Name Motor Trend Magazine's Car of the Year.
Camaro.
That is wrong. All right, where we going here, Paul? Oh, I got it. Eric in Cedarburg. Eric, name Motor Trend Magazine's Car of the Year.
I thought it was the Camaro as well.
Well, we'll check that during the break, but I don't believe that it is. It's 4:52 at News Talk 1130 WISN. News Talk 1130 WISN. Mark Belling, late afternoon show. Our football pick contest is still to come. And once we finish it, we're going to get right back to the current events quiz, which is underway right now. And I rarely do this, but I took a break because two persons in a row had the same incorrect answer, which made me want to double check my question. In fact, both of those callers were in fact wrong. The answers they gave are not correct. They, interestingly enough, chose the answer that would have been correct 1 year ago. The one when that they mentioned, and I'm not going to repeat that answer, won Motor Trend's Car of the Year last year. The current reigning Car of the Year is someone else. So we're going to go to Michael in Kewaskum. Mike, name, and I guess I have to say current, name Motor Trend Magazine's current Car of the Year.
It is the Chevrolet Bolt.
It's the Bolt. That is correct. In fact, we spent a lot of time talking about it when they won the award. The Bolt, not to be confused with the Volt with a V as in Victor. The Bolt with a B as in Belling is Chevy's all-electric car and reasonably modestly priced at an all-electric car. And it did win the prestigious Motor Trend Award as Car of the Year. And Michael has won. The Camaro, by the way, did win last year, and I suspect a couple of people looked up that thing and they got the Google hit on that, and that was how they stumbled into the answer that wasn't correct. But that was why I took the break, and I wanted to make sure that my information was correct. And the current Motor Trend Car of the Year is indeed the Chevy Bolt. And I didn't say current when I asked the question, but I think that that's implied, that we're not talking about the one that won it 6 years ago or whatever. All right, Michael's got one correct, and we're now going for two in a row. For you. The United Kingdom's residents voted in June for something called Brexit. What is that?
Brexit was the vote to leave the European Union.
That's correct. That's two for Michael, going now for three. Arguably the greatest sprinter of all time, Usain Bolt won 4 more gold medals at the Rio Olympics. What country is he from?
He is from...
Sorry, I can't take that. That's too long. And again, we have a quick trigger on when we need to have the answer for the reasons that I explained a little bit earlier. Line 1 is my next one, right? Scott in Oak Creek. Scott, you get to hear the full question over again. Okay. Usain Bolt, arguably the greatest sprinter of all time. Usain Bolt won 4 more gold medals at the Rio Olympics. What country is he from?
Jamaica.
That's correct. Okay, let's get Scott up on the board with one, going now for 2. Which of the following numbers is the highest? Now, you're going to need to listen to this entire list. Which of the following numbers is the highest? Number of Democrats in the Wisconsin Assembly. Age of Governor Walker. Percent of the vote won in Wisconsin by Donald Trump in the November election. Percentage of the vote won by Ted Cruz in the Wisconsin Republican primary in April. What number is the highest?
The percentage won by Ted Cruz in Wisconsin.
That is not a correct answer. We're going to go to Mark in Pewaukee. Mark, I'll read the list for you again. You're to come up with the number that is the highest. Number of Democrats in the Wisconsin Assembly. Age of Governor Scott Walker. Percent of the vote won by Donald Trump in Wisconsin in the November election. Percentage of the vote won by Ted Cruz in the Wisconsin Republican primary in April.
I'll take Scott Walker.
That's correct. Scott Walker's 49 years old. Trump got 47% of the vote in Wisconsin. Remember, the Libertarian and the Green and the scatterings of others took some votes. Ted Cruz got 48 in the Wisconsin primary, and there's just a measly 35 Democrats in the state assembly. So Scott Walker's age actually is the highest number. I'm guessing that was a pure guess, right, Mark?
Well, I narrowed
educated
it
guess.
Yeah.
You kind of
it was a bit of a guess.
Yeah, I think most people would not have thought Scott's now 49, but he's been the governor for a while. All right, that's one for you, and we're now going for 2 in a row. Teresa Halbach's name was in Wisconsin news off and on in 2016. Who is she?
She was the victim of that grisly murder.
I got to get a little more here.
Well, the guy that was in prison, released from prison, killed her, burned her body.
I need more information.
The murderer was the subject of a TV program.
Can you give me more information?
Bernard Dassey,
Yeah,
was
that's enough. Dassey
right.
was one. I wanted the names of one of the people convicted. Dassey was one of the people convicted in the murder of Teresa Halbach. The reason, and you were referring to the television show and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Still, I thought it was important to have a name here because obviously we had many tragically murder victims, but you gave me, and that's why I kept going for more to see whether or not you had enough substantial information. When you said the name Dassey, I'm ruling your answer correct because he was one of the two. Stephen Avery was the other one, but I'm now ruling that correct so he can move forward. That's 2 for Mike. Going now for
Mark.
Excuse me?
Sorry,
Mark. That's great. Mark. Well, flummox all of a sudden here.
You won't forget that.
All right. Well, yeah, this is Mark with a K, by the way?
Yes.
The correct way. Yes, Mark with a K from Pewaukee has 2, going for 3. This community in 2016 received approval from all Great Lakes states to receive water from Lake Michigan. Name it.
Waukesha.
Waukesha is correct. That's 3. Going now for 4. Name the Republican presidential candidate who said during a debate that if Donald Trump hadn't inherited money from his father, he'd be one of those guys selling counterfeit watches on Fifth Avenue in New York.
Bush. I don't know.
That is not correct. That's not correct. Paul, let's go now to Steve in Benton Harbor, Michigan, who is a past winner of the contest and something of a legend in this. Steve, I'm going to repeat the entire question for you. Name the Republican presidential candidate who said during a debate that if Donald Trump hadn't inherited money from his father, he'd be one of those guys selling counterfeit watches on Fifth Avenue in New York.
That was Marco Rubio.
That was Marco Rubio. You are correct. Let's get Steve on the board here. All right, Steve, that's 1 going now for 2 in a row. Ban Ki-moon stepped down last month as leader of what?
The United Nations.
That is correct. If I'm the guy from Waukesha on the lead, I'm now shaking in my boots here. Going now for 3 in a row. The dramatization of this real-life murder trial won the Emmy Award for Best Limited Run Series on Television in 2016. Which murder trial? That is correct. It's People versus O.J. Simpson. 3 in a row going for 4. Speaking of O.J. Simpson, he is currently in prison in what state?
Nevada.
That's correct. Is there anything you don't know?
I've answered a question about O.J. Simpson going to prison in Nevada about 3 or 4 years ago.
You're kidding.
You
mean to tell me I asked a question about O.J. Simpson in Nevada and you got that? That was one that happened to be thrown to you?
About 4 or 5 years ago, yes, right when he went.
What are the chances that you get the same? I mean, maybe I'd have a question on the same subject for. Good grief! Well, this is what the reason. You know why the reason he had that question, Paul? Because he gets all the questions because he gets 75 in a row correct. All right, this is 4 for Steve. We're now going for 5. Speaking of Nevada, Las Vegas just got awarded its first major professional sports franchise. In what league?
The NHL.
Can you be more specific? No, I'm going to say that's correct. The National Hockey League. What else would NHL be? So I'm going to rule that correct. That's 5. And we're now going for 6. Speaking of hockey, who won the sports championship, the Stanley Cup? And here's a hint. The team's star player and the series MVP was Sidney Crosby.
The Pittsburgh Penguins.
That is correct. Would you have known that without the Sidney Crosby hint?
I would have, yes. I'm a big hockey fan.
Oh, okay. Because I know a lot of people aren't, and that's why I thought throwing Crosby in would make the question fair. I could have started with the word speaking, and Steve would have gotten the thing. All right, that's 6 for you. One more, and you have tied for the lead. Speaking of penguins, they are native to some coastal areas of the South Pole. What American former astronaut was on an expedition to the South Pole late in 2016, only to have to be evacuated out because of health issues?
Buzz Aldrin.
That is correct, and you are tied for the lead. This would put you into the lead. Upon the conclusion of the 2016 Olympics, how many gold medals has American swimmer Michael Phelps won in his overall Olympic career? And you must be within one.
24.
That is correct. The answer is 23. So 22, 23, and 24 are correct, and he is our leader. Even the ones he gets wrong are one that, in the nature of the question I ask, he's allowed to be within. Paul, he might not get any. We might run through the entire list of questions that I'm holding in my hand here. All right, this is now 8 and going now for 9. 8 in a row currently. Who is the current U.S. Secretary of State?
John Kerry.
That's correct. And you were right on the bubble of having to spit that out. That's 9 going for 10. Which of the following played Summerfest Marcus Amphitheater in 2016? It might be all of them, some of them, one of them, or none of them. Bruce Springsteen, Sting, Paul McCartney, Jay-Z.
Paul McCartney.
That is not correct. We're going to put you on hold, and Steve now stops, and he's at the number of 9. That's where Steve is, 9. So it would take 9 to catch him and force a tiebreaker, 10 to beat him. And again, anybody who was in the lead before can once again now play again, so long as they have not violated the 3-strike rule. But Steve's been multiple past winner of the contest, and something of a genius, and he got stalled at the level here of 9. Peter and Racine, I'm going to repeat for you the question that must be impossible because the last guy didn't know it. Which of the following played Summerfest Marcus Amphitheater in 2016? It might be all of them, some of them, one of them, or none of them. Bruce Springsteen, Sting, Paul McCartney, Jay-Z.
None of them?
That is not correct. Let's go to Kevin in Waukesha. Kevin, I'll repeat the list of performers. Bruce Springsteen, Sting, Paul McCartney, Jay-Z. Who played Summerfest Marcus Amphitheater in 2016? And it could be more than one, none of them, all of them, etc. What's the answer?
Jay-Z.
That is not correct either. To Kyle on the east side. Kyle, take a crack at that question.
All but Jay-Z.
Well, that would be, are you saying that your answer is Bruce Springsteen, Sting, and Paul McCartney? That would be everybody else. And that answer is wrong. And that's where we're going to leave the quiz for a moment here. We're going to take a break. We have a football picking contest coming up, and then we're going to resume our quiz, and we're going to run right through 6 o'clock. So everybody stick around. Now, for those of you who are trying to take part in the quiz, we are tying up our lines during this period in which we're going to do the football contest, but we will reopen them when I resume the quiz. So everybody stick around for that. 508 News Talk 1130 WIS. We are doing our year-end current events quiz for some of you coming in. We'll reset the table on that and resume it. Our audience, our leader right now is legendary contestant Steve from Benton Harbor, Michigan, who has won a number of times. He used to be from Wisconsin, now lives in Michigan. He has 9 in a row, but you can take a crack at it. If you want to play on the current events quiz, we're going to reopen our phone lines right now. 414-799-1130 or Pello Windows and Doors of Wisconsin, toll free 1-800-838-9476. It's 531 at News Talk 1130 WIS.
The ring of fire, the ring of fire.
News Talk 1130 WISN, Mark Belling, late afternoon show. Year-end current events quiz is what's going on here. We started it at 3, took a little break for a football picking contest. Resume it right now. I won't go through all of the rules again. 18 or over, resident of the United States, 51 of the 50 states, you can take part. You can only play 3 times during the course of the entire program. The winner is the person who answers the most questions in a row correctly. Our current leader is multiple winner of this contest, Steve, now from Benton Harbor, Michigan, who has 9 in a row correct and went on another one of his epic runs, but somebody might have an opportunity here to still catch him and knock him out of the contest. 414-799-1130 and Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin, toll free 1-800-838-9476 are our phone numbers. What are you playing for? Spectacular prize package, including 1 day's tickets, including Trophy Club access at the U.S. Open Golf Tournament in Erin Hills to be held in June of this coming year. $1,500 gift certificate from Master Z's, the outstanding game room, rec room, patio furniture facility in Waukesha and now at Bayshore. You also have an Apple MacBook computer from Online Trading Academy and a 1-year couples membership to the Great Health Club, the Princeton Club of New Berlin. All right, we're going to resume our contest right now and go to the phone lines with the last question that was incorrectly answered, which is going to go to Andrew in Waukesha. Andrew, I'm going to repeat the whole question for you since it's been a while since we had a question. Which of the following played Summerfest Marcus Amphitheater in 2016? It might be all of them, some of them, one of them, or none of them. Bruce Springsteen, Sting, Paul McCartney, Jay-Z.
2 of them, Sting and Paul McCartney.
That's correct. The answer is Sting and Paul McCartney. And a number of people had different combinations in this, that, and the other thing, but that's correct. All right, Andrew has 1, and we're now going for 2 in a row for you. Let me find my spot here in the quiz. Okay. Who is Jay-Z's wife?
Beyonce.
That is correct. That's 2. Now going for 3. Beyonce has the same last name as a former governor of Wisconsin. What is it? Answer.
Lucy?
That is not correct, but that's a great guess. Like I say, you may as well guess, and there is a former governor of Wisconsin named Lucy, and that could have been it. But it's not. See, that's the sad thing about making the good guess. I mean, if you come up with a good guess, on the other hand, some good guesses, you actually hit it. So Brian in Dallas, Texas is next. Brian, Beyonce's last name is the same as a former governor of Wisconsin. What is it?
Knowles?
What?
Knowles.
Yes, that's correct. It's Beyonce Knowles. Same last name as former Governor Warren Knowles. All right, 1 for you, going now for 2. Who is Greg Gard?
Member of the State Assembly.
That is not correct. Paul in Cedarburg. Who is Greg Gard?
Coach of the Badgers men's basketball team.
That is correct. Interestingly, the last guy, I don't know if he's got a Wisconsin background or not, but that Greg Gard has the same name as, last name is John Gard, who used to be the Speaker of the State Assembly, and that might have been where that guy came up with that answer. All right, Paul, you have 1, and we're going for 2. Recep Erdogan is leader of one of the most controversial nations in the world right now. Name the country.
Turkey.
That's correct. It's Turkey. 2 for Paul, going for 3. This former Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives was sentenced to prison in 2016 for concealing bank withdrawals to cover up payments he made to a young man he sexually assaulted decades ago. Name him.
Denny Hastert.
That's correct. Dennis Hastert is correct. 3, going for 4. Waukesha native and former Milwaukee CPA Gwen Jorgensen made big news in 2016. What did she do?
She won gold medal in the Olympics.
I need more information here.
In the triathlon?
That's correct. She won the gold medal in the Olympic women's triathlon. That's 4 for Paul. Our leader has 9, going now for 5 in a row. Name the only Wisconsin county that is entirely within the boundaries of an Indian reservation. Too long, sorry. And as I say, 2 seconds is about what I give people for reasons that I mentioned earlier, with the ability of people to, especially with voice access, check things out online and so on, using personal assistance and clicking with their fingers. That's why we go real quickly on the time needed to answer the question. That's just the way we have to do it now. Rob in Bayview. Rob, I'm going to repeat the question for you. Name the only Wisconsin county that is entirely within the boundaries of an Indian reservation.
Manitoba?
That is not correct. Matt in Wauwatosa. Matt, do you know the answer?
Menominee?
Menominee is correct, which is the home of the Menominee Indian Reservation. That reservation is actually its own county. All right. Matt has one going now for 2 in a row. In the end, no one was convicted in the death of a man named Freddie Gray in a highly publicized case. In what city did Freddie Gray die?
New York City.
That's not correct. All right, let's go to put that same question to Kevin in Fitchburg, Wisconsin. Kevin, I'll repeat the entire question. In the end, no one was convicted in the death of a man named Freddie Gray in a highly publicized case. In what city did Freddie Gray die?
Baltimore.
That is correct. That was the police custody death that resulted in all those riots in Baltimore and so on. Kevin has one correct, and we're now going for 2. Name the Democratic candidate for Vice President of the United States.
Tom Kean.
That's not correct. To Jay in Saukville. Jay, name the Democratic candidate for Vice President of the United States.
Tim Kaine?
Yes. No, the last caller said Tom Kean, and I would have required first and last name, and I heard Tom and not Tim, and that's why I ruled it incorrect. All right, Jay, you have 1, and you're now going for 2 in a row.
Okay.
Brett Favre was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2016. Every member of the Football Hall of Fame has someone present him for induction. Who presented Favre?
His wife, Deanna.
That is correct. That's 2, and we're now going for 3. One of the unlikeliest Republican presidential candidates was Dr. Ben Carson, a former pediatric neurosurgeon at what famous university hospital?
I'm going to say the Mayo Clinic.
That is not correct. That's not correct. Let's go now to Sue in Genesee. Sue, I'll repeat the question for you. One of the unlikeliest Republican presidential candidates was Dr. Ben Carson, a former pediatric neurosurgeon at what famous university hospital?
Johns Hopkins.
That is correct.
Woohoo!
Just getting 1 on this contest, that's worth a woohoo. No more woohoos, though. Because if you get like 6 or 7 in a row, we can't woohoo. I think, why, you kind of thinking that might be the only one you're going to get? That's why we got the woohoo in there?
Probably, but I was just thrilled I got through.
I know. Oh, it's hard. All right, that's 1. We're going now for 2. The economy of the South African... that was an incorrect. Let me read the whole thing over. The economy of this South American nation, led by President Nicolas Maduro, virtually collapsed in 2016. Name this South American country.
I have no idea.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure thing. We know I get the woohoo. She got, hey, you get 1 in the row already. You're smarter than most of the other people in the world. All right. This is is this the pass leader here? Well, yeah, okay. Wendy in Wauwatosa, who was at one point one of the leaders in the contest, is back with us here. Wendy, I'm going to repeat the question for you. The economy of this South American nation, led by President Nicolas Maduro, virtually collapsed in 2016. Name the country.
Venezuela.
Venezuela is correct. All right, Wendy has 1 going now for 2 in a row. This mobile game app caused a massive sensation in 2016 with millions of seemingly addicted players. One of the primary sites was Milwaukee's Lake Park. Name the game.
Pokemon Go.
That is correct. And Wendy, you've got 2 in a row now, and you're going to go for 3, and you're going to do it after we take the break. So don't go anywhere. I'm going to put Wendy on hold. We're going to go right until about 6 o'clock with our contest here. So Wendy will have a chance for 3 in a row in a moment. 5:45 News Talk 1130 W. News Talk 1130 WISN. Mark Belling, late afternoon show. Year-end current events quiz is underway. Steve from Benton Harbor, Michigan's our leader with 9 in a row. Wendy in Wauwatosa's on a run of 2 in a row, and she's going for 3. Wendy, a massive fight over control of one of the largest media companies in the world broke out in 2016 when the company chairman's daughter exiled her father, Sumner Redstone's 2 younger girlfriends and much of the company's leadership team. Name the company.
Time Warner.
That is not correct. Let's go to Ben in Pewaukee. Ben, I'm going to repeat the entire question for you. A massive fight over control of one of the largest media companies in the world broke out in 2016 when the company's chairman's daughter exiled her father, Sumner Redstone's 2 younger girlfriends and much of the company's leadership team. Name the company.
I don't know.
Okay, let's go to Steve in New Berlin. Steve, you heard the question. Do you know the answer?
Viacom.
Viacom is correct, and the tip-off there was Sumner Redstone, who's run Viacom essentially from the very beginning of the company. That's 1 for Steve, now going for 2 in a row. It was an extraordinary year for Reince Priebus, who chaired the Republican National Committee through the raucous primary season and then was given major credit by Donald Trump for his presidential win. Priebus has been named Chief of Staff in the incoming Trump administration. What city is Priebus originally from?
Marinette.
That is not correct. Let's go to Bob in Wauwatosa. Bob, I'll repeat the question for you. It was an extraordinary year for Reince Priebus, who chaired the Republican National Committee through the raucous primary season and then was given major credit by Donald Trump for his presidential win. Priebus has been named Chief of Staff in the incoming Trump administration. What city is Priebus originally from?
Kenosha.
That is correct. See, who do I have here?
Rob.
This is Rob in Tosa, okay. Rob back up. Going for 2 in a row now. A guy named Nyquist won something very famous in 2016. What?
No idea.
Okay. Let's go to Jerry in Pewaukee. Jerry, a guy named Nyquist won something very famous in 2016. What?
I have no idea.
All right. Let's try Paul in Cedarburg's back. Paul, a guy named Nyquist won something very famous in 2016. What?
The Kentucky Derby?
That is correct, the Kentucky Derby, and it might have fooled some people because there's a very famous hockey player named Nyquist, but he didn't win anything huge in 2016. Nyquist was the name of the horse that won the Kentucky Derby. That's 1 going for 2 in a row. City Administrator T.J. Justice resigned and was criminally charged with soliciting a teenager for a sexual relationship. Of what local community was he administrator?
Waukesha.
That is not correct. Let's see here. Brandon in Berlin. Brandon, I'll repeat the question for you. City Administrator T.J. Justice resigned and was criminally charged with soliciting a teenager for a sexual relationship. Of what local community was he administrator?
West Bend.
That is correct. 1 for Brandon, going for 2. Although the deal has not been finalized, Yahoo agreed to be sold in 2016 to what company? Nope, too long. Let's go to Jim in West Allis. Jim, although the deal has not been finalized, Yahoo agreed to be sold in 2016 to what company?
Apple?
That is not correct. To Lee and Douglas. Lee, you heard the question. Do you know the answer?
Yeah, I believe it's the Don Kill Horsey Squeal.
All right. Was that the same guy that did that before? It was? That means he's been trying to get through. He made it through in the 3 o'clock hour, and now right at like 10 to 6, he's been trying for 3 hours to get in and do that thing. That would be a sign of really needing to get a life. I mean, it'd be one thing if he snuck through all your lines and then called back 7 minutes later. He must have been trying for the last 3 hours to get back in. It's just hilarious. To Mark at Richfield. Mark, I'm going to repeat the question for you with that little distraction. Although the deal has not been finalized, Yahoo agreed to be sold in 2016 to what company?
Is it Verizon?
It is. Let's get Mark up. All right. Mark, going now for 2 in a row. In early February, a man named Von Miller was named something very prestigious. What?
Don't know.
Okay. And the person who gets this question correct will be the last contestant in this year's quiz. Unless he, of course, would go on and get the 9 in a row and tie our current leader. Martin in Minneapolis. Martin, in early February, a man named Von Miller was named something very prestigious. What?
Super Bowl MVP?
That's correct. Super Bowl most valuable player. And that means Martin is going to be the last player in the contest for this year. So, Martin, let's go now for 2 in a row. American Idol ended its remarkable run with its final episode in June. Name the series' longtime and only host.
Simon Cowell?
That's not correct. He wasn't the host of the program. Ryan Seacrest was. And that means that once again, what's his first name? Steve from Benton Harbor, Michigan, is the winner of our current events quiz. We'll talk about him, his ability, and also recap the quiz and a brief comment on the enormous story today from Fort Lauderdale as we end the show after this. 556 News Talk 1130 WISN. News Talk 1130 WISN, Mark Belling, late afternoon show. You know, a number of years ago, I did a current events quiz where we banned all previous winners because we had some people, and Steve might have already won by that point, that were really, really good at this thing, and they come on and they'd run off 6, 7. 1 year, I don't know, it was him or somebody else at 18 or 19 in a row, and it makes it hard for anybody else to have a chance winning. And the reaction that I got from that decision was overwhelmingly negative from the audience, that people wanted to hear guys like this come on, or women like this. We had 2 of our best players this year were women, obviously, who go off on these long runs and they enjoy hearing it. And even though it means that in some cases, this guy doesn't win every year. Steve has not won every year. We've had a number of other winners, but I think it's at least his 5th time that he's won this, and somebody else might have won it too. So we've chosen to allow them to play, but we do the thing that they only get to play in the second half of the contest. So their chances of getting in 3 times, which is the number of maximum times that you could play, would be limited. But he obviously just knows a lot of stuff, and he is a Wisconsin native, and Benton Harbor straight across the lake from Chicago, so he still keeps in touch with Wisconsin news and appears to be just one of these guys that knows everything. Is O'Donnell still claiming he didn't get anything wrong himself? Dan O'Donnell claimed he had 29 in a row correct to Paul. Yeah, okay, fine. Oh, he's piping. So what's he doing? Bothering you by piping in with the answers when you're trying to concentrate on running the thing? Well, yeah, Paul said he told him to shut up. Okay, covers the news. He's supposed to know these things. He's also, thank God, not eligible to play because he works here. Paul, pick a number between 93 and 117. 97. It has been the number 1 selling vehicle in the United States each year for more than a decade. Name it. No, you should know this. I've mentioned it a zillion times. The Ford F-Series pickup, mostly, of course, the F-150. I said vehicle to make it clear that if it could have been a car or a truck. I had a bunch of other questions in here that were pretty good that we didn't have an opportunity to get to. I always, of course, have to have more than we otherwise would have. But it's a fun thing that we do every year, and I hope people enjoyed listening to it.